Are you looking to become a YouTuber for a hobby or career? Then check out the Logitech HD Pro Webcam C920, complete with 1080p recording for your desktop or laptop. Affiliate link below in the video description. Hey, what's going on, everybody? My name is Matt Jarbo. This is the Mundane Matt channel, and as many of you know, I've spent a large majority of my life living in Portland, Oregon, and only a month ago did I decide to leave the city to move north to, well, greener pastures and no 9% income tax. Trust me, it's better to be taxed on what you spend rather than what you earn, but that's an argument for another day. But the city that I've spent a large portion of my life in has changed from when I was a kid to what it is now. It was a bastion for liberalism way back in the day, and now it's a bastion for extreme leftism and absolute craziness. We're turning into Florida, for Christ's sake. So much crazy stuff going on. Just recently, there was a guy who was arrested masturbating publicly because he hated Portland. That's Florida level shit. But it's happening in Portland, Oregon. And of course, last week, there was the tragic double homicide on a MAX train when a guy by the name of Jeremy Christian was verbally assaulting two young Muslim women. Some other guys stood up to protect them, defend them, to intervene, and he pulled out a knife and killed two of them and injured a third one who is now okay. It is a horrific act. It is a terrible act, and it is one that we as a country cannot allow to continue at all. Like, we need to find ways to combat this level of hatred. Now, this guy also hates Antifa, and he hated Donald Trump. He hated Hillary Clinton. Apparently was a Bernie Sanders supporter. So go figure on that one. It's an odd mix. You can't really lock this guy down into one group based on what he espouses online. And a lot of people were trying. A lot of people were trying to say, he's an alt-righter, he's a Nazi, because they wanted to justify their own internal hatred for opposing viewpoints. But all intents and purposes, he isn't. He wasn't. The evidence doesn't show that he is. I mean, hell, even the alt-righters in the area were like, this dude is too fucking nuts, even for us. And they've been the ones that have been effectively been accused of kind of manufacturing this incident through their hatred, which is fundamentally not correct. So the alt-righters have decided to have their own protest in regards to this. They had scheduled, or they had applied for permits on June 4th and June 10th at a park, at Shrunk Park, or Shrunk Plaza, my mistake. And the mayor of Portland, Tom Wheeler, and the joke I want to make here is like he's a cuck extraordinaire. And that's not a word I like to use unironically, but I kind of mean it here. And the reason why is because he's actually calling upon the federal government to revoke those permits, because the government is the ones that issue that. He's actually saying the federal government controls permitting for Shrunk Plaza, and it is my understanding that they've issued a permit for the event on June 4th. I'm calling on the federal government to immediately revoke the permits they have issued for the June 4th event and to not issue a permit for June 10th. And his reasoning for this is because he thinks that alt-right means hate speech, and that hate speech is not free speech protected under the United States Constitution. You're a mayor, Tom Wheeler. You're a mayor of one of the fastest growing cities in the United States. And how the fuck do you not know that the First Amendment, free speech, protects hate speech? It's true. It does. It absolutely protects hate speech. And it's something that people on the left don't ever want to acknowledge. Don't ever want to acknowledge. And the way Portland has gone in regards to its how it's been governed by people like Tom Wheeler is sad. I went to the Not My President protest. I watched all that stuff go down. It was handled poorly. The police were muzzled, and there was a lot of kids out there running around trying to cause chaos. And that's one of the reasons why Antifa has been able to kind of gather a foothold in that area, because they're being told to hang back. But there's a group that's come out in regards, or in response to Wheeler's comments, and they are criticizing him for what he had to say. And that would actually be the American Civil Liberties Union. Yeah, the ACLU has actually come out and decried what he said, saying here, it was really troubling to hear Mayor Wheeler talk about how hate speech is not constitutionally protected because that is just legally wrong. Now, he goes on to clarify that by saying that the line between what is protected and what isn't is concrete evidence of imminent threat of violence. So by having alt-righters go out there and just talk about the alt-right, that's not a threat of violence. Therefore, it is protected under the First Amendment. If they were calling for anyone to be injured or anything like that, then that's a different take altogether. But Tom Wheeler doesn't seem to understand that, and the ACLU very much wants to protect it, saying that they believe it's important to keep the line solid, regardless of emotions or the side of the issue they may fall on ideologically. Going on to say, I think that it's always a really difficult issue to take a stand because the First Amendment is so tricky and applies so often to views that we completely disagree with, which is very, very, very true. They did go to finish this by saying, if we don't protect this, it won't be long before the speech of people we support will be under attack. And that is one of the reasons why, when you are a protector of free speech, a champion of free speech, you want people out there to espouse their opinions. In situations like this, you have to stand up for speech you disagree with, because it is constitutionally protected. And just because you feel one way doesn't necessarily mean that somebody else will, and your feelings do not dictate their constitutional rights. And that's one of the things I think needs to be addressed time and time again in this country until it is so just put on someone's head. It's so just shoved in their face that they can't forget it. It's seared into their eyes when they close them, that they can see free speech is for all, and that, you know, unpopular opinions still fall under free speech. And we live in an age where people's opinions, especially on the internet, can lead to destroying their entire lives by those out there who simply don't like it. It's not even an issue of whether or not it falls underneath free speech or it's a threat of violence. It doesn't matter where it falls in that particular coin. If it's different than what I think, if it's outside of my echo chamber, I don't like it. And as horrific and horrible and terrible as the acts of Jeremy Christian on the train the other day were, and they were one of the darkest things that ever happened to Portland, it's a time for people to come together and discuss it, because this is a guy that's an enigma in that regard. He's an enigma wrapped in a mystery, wrapped in a vest, if I'm going to quote The Simpsons properly. This is a guy who you look at, he's a known white supremacist. The day before the incident happened, he was cited for throwing a drink at a black woman on the Max. He hated Donald Trump, hated Hillary Clinton, was pro-Bernie, but a white supremacist. The alt-right said he was too crazy. The alt-right groups in town said this guy was too extreme. This guy is something fundamentally different. And he pulls from multiple different groups and categories, which is maybe one of the reasons why the situation is hard to process or clarify, or maybe label, as many people would like to think. Maybe that's one of the reasons why, because this dude is something wholly different. And the only way to work past this, to work through this, is for one to come together and not start taking away the freedoms of others or calling upon the federal government to restrict the freedoms of others. Tom Wheeler, all you're doing is basically pushing yourself to not get reelected, because I don't think people out there who appreciate free speech are going to want to reelect a mayor in Portland that tries to silence it. And I have seen on the streets of Portland, in downtown, at Pioneer Courthouse Square, the fundamentalist Christians out there with the pictures of dead baby fetuses, shouting at passerbys. I've seen the men out there preaching the gospel while looking at women in short skirts and calling them whores and sluts. I've seen that in the heart of downtown Portland more times than I care. But it's free speech. It's free speech. And as much as it sucks, as much as it's shitty, as much as it's horrible, they have a constitutional right guaranteed to them by our government to espouse their opinion. And you are a mayor of a city, not an arbiter of what is or is not free speech. And I hope that the ACLU, which is usually on the side of you, Tom Wheeler, the fact that they're stepping up to fight back against this shows you precisely how much you done goofed. And I'm hoping other people, other Portlanders, other Oregonians come together and say, no, you need to back off. This needs to be allowed to happen. They have applied for the permits. They followed the proper channels. They have done their due diligence. What's the problem? And unfortunately, I don't think we're going to get a lot of that out of the Portlanders themselves. Emotions are running high right now. And given everything going on with Portland, we probably won't see that. But I would hope that there are enough people out there that want to protect free speech, protect it as far as they can, that would stand up and say no. But we'll have to wait and see. I'm just glad the ACLU is defending speech, even speech they dislike, because it's constitutionally guaranteed to every citizen here. But what do you guys think about this? Let me know in the comments below. My name is, of course, Matt Jarbo. This is the Mundane Matt channel. If you guys haven't already, thumbs up the video. Subscribe to the channel below. Check back daily for more content from me. If you want to help support the channel, links below in the video description or the Amazon affiliate link at the beginning of the video. I'll talk to you guys later. Have yourself a fantastic day. Peace out.